Uh-oh, here comes the magic school bus. That means that Ms. Frizzle is about to take us on another weird trip. You have no idea what she makes us go through, but you are about to find out, thanks to Joanna Cole, who wrote about us in The Magic School Bus Inside a Beehive, and Bruce Deegan, who drew the pictures. If you want to come along, climb on board and bring your book. Not all the words in the book are on this tape, but you can still follow along. Just turn the page when you hear this sound.
What a perfect spring day,
said Miss Frizzle, looking out the window. We thought it was perfect, too. Perfect for playing softball. But the Frizz had something else in mind.
It's just right for observing honeybees.
There are more insect species on Earth than all other animals put together.
Yes, but do they all have to be in our classroom?
Insect checklist. All adult insects always have 6 legs, always have 3 body sections, usually have wings, usually have antennae. Honeybees are insects. Here are some other insects. Wasp, cockroach, ant, housefly, cricket, dragonfly, Goliath beetle, mosquito.
Is a spider an insect?
No, spiders have 8 legs and 2 body sections.
Spiders are relatives of insects.
We had been studying about all different kinds of insects. Now Miss Frizzle said she had found a beekeeper who would show us his honeybee hives.
Buzz! Quit bugging me. Some Kinds of Bees by Florrie. There are more than 20,000 different kinds of bees. Here are some of them: honeybee, bumblebee, carpenter bee, orchid bee.
The beekeeper is visiting his hives today. We'll meet him there,
said the Frizz, and she swept out the door.
Maybe this will be a normal field trip for a change.
I don't call 6 legs normal.
It is, if you're an insect.
As we boarded the old school bus, Miss Frizzle talked and talked about honeybees.
They make a delicious food for us to eat,
she said.
They help many plants survive, and they are wonderful examples of social insects.
What are social insects? By Wanda. Social insects live and work together in a community. Some social insects. Ants nest in the ground. Paper wasps make a nest out of wood pulp. Bumblebees nest in grass-lined holes in the ground. Termites nest in wood.
A word from Dorothy Ann. Social comes from a word that means friend or partner.
Bees are my favorite insects.
What is your favorite insect, Arnold?
I'm not the kind of person who has a favorite insect.
Miss Frizzle drove out into the country and parked the bus next to the hives. The beekeeper was late, so Frizzy took out a picnic basket.
Some light refreshments will pass the time while we wait,
she said. Sometimes our teacher has good ideas.
Bees usually will not sting unless you touch them, annoy them, or get too close to their hive.
May we close the windows, please?
Why do bees sting? By Phoebe. Stinging is the way bees protect their hive. Bees usually sting only if they have to. That's because they die soon after they sting.
I'll sting, but only for a good cause.
Such as saving the hive.
Honeybees have barbs or hooks on the end of their stingers. This is the stinger, and this is the barb. When a honeybee stings, her stinger gets stuck in the victim's skin. The stinger is pulled out of the bee's body, and the bee dies.
But just as she opened a jar of honey, her elbow knocked a strange little lever. The honey jar fell.
Oops!
And we heard a weird buzzing sound. It was the bus. It was vibrating and getting smaller. So was everything in it, including us.
We're shaking.
We're shrinking.
I hate when this happens. Allergic to Bee Stings by Ralphie. Some people get very sick and can even die from bee stings. They have to carry special medicine.
Before we knew it, the bus looked like a little beehive, and we looked like real bees. We really did.
All out, class.
Buzzed the Frizz.
Be a bee, everyone.
Do we have a choice? Stop poking me with your antennae. Stop stepping on my wing.
These things don't happen on most class trips.
Beehives Through the Ages by Tim. Wild bees have always made their homes in hollow trees or logs. Human-made hives are built of straw, pottery, or wood.
One by one, we stepped out the door and looked over at the nearest hive. At the entrance, worker bees were standing guard.
Guard bees usually keep out bees from other hives,
said the Frizz.
According to my research, guard bees will bite and sting strange bees.
Do we qualify as strange bees? No doubt about it.
There is one time when guard bees may let in a strange bee,
said Miss Frizzle.
Sometimes a hive may adopt a lost bee if it is carrying a lot of bee food. All bee food comes from flowers.
Bees eat only nectar and pollen and foods they make from nectar and pollen.
What? No chips?
Looking for bee food? Try a flower by Shirley. Bees gather nectar, a sweet liquid in flowers. They also collect pollen, tiny colorful grains in flowers.
The average bee visits thousands of flowers every day. Now I know why they call them busy bees.
We'll have to visit flowers and get bee food in order to gain entrance to the hive. Follow that bee!
Shouted the Frizz. We flew after a bee that was headed toward some bright flowers.
Exactly what does she mean by gain entrance to the hive? She means go inside it. I was afraid of that.
Flying is fun.
Buzz off.
Observe our bee, children, and do exactly what she does,
Miss Frizzle called. The bee stuck her long, tube-like tongue deep into a flower and pumped out nectar. We each did the same with a rubber tube.
The bee carries the nectar in a pouch called the honey stomach,
Frizzy told us. We carried our nectar in a tiny bottle.
Be a bee! Collect nectar and pollen.
Bees Help Flowers Make Seeds by Alex. As bees visit flowers, they pollinate them. This means they carry pollen from one flower to another. When a grain of pollen joins with an egg cell in a flower, a seed begins to grow.
Many plants cannot make seeds unless bees pollinate their flowers.
We need bees.
Pollen grains rubbed off the flower and stuck onto the bee's fur. With her front and middle legs, she combed off the pollen and packed it into pollen baskets, pouches on her back legs. Then she returned to the hive. We packed our pollen and went along.
At my old school, we never collected flower products.
If we have a lot, maybe the bees won't sting us.
I'm getting extra.
help make food for people by John. Bees pollinate many crop plants, plants that give us our food, such as apples, blueberries, squash, and oranges.
We need bees!
One by one, we landed at the hive. The Frizz sprayed us with a bee pheromone, a chemical that bees make. Now we smelled like bees.
There may be as many as 60,000 bees in one hive, class.
What if they notice we're not real bees?
Spray me again, please, Miss Frizzle.
Bees Talk with Smells by Amanda Jane. Pheromones are body chemicals that allow animals to talk to each other by smell.
Phew! Do you have to talk so loud?
With pheromones, bees send each other many messages. Here are some of them. I'm a hive mate. I'm a stranger. I'm a worker. I'm the queen bee. Danger, danger! Defend the hive! Bees don't talk in words, but they do communicate.
Then came the scary part. We held our breath as the guard bees brushed us with their antennae, smelling us. If they fell for our trick, we'd get into the hive. If they didn't, we'd get into big trouble.
We're taking a big chance. I'll buzz to that.
Who's Who in the Hive by Michael. In a honeybee colony, there are 3 castes, or kinds of bees. 1. The queen. Her job is to lay eggs, eggs, and more eggs. 2. Workers. They are all female bees that usually do not lay eggs. Workers do almost all the jobs in the hive.
Here are my work orders. Guard entrance, clean hive, build comb, make honey, fan wings to cool hive, tend queen, feed baby bees, collect pollen and nectar.
3. The drones are all male bees. A male bee's only job is to mate with a queen.
The guards smelled our bee spray and our bee food. They let us pass. Other workers took our nectar and bustled off with it.
Hooray! We're free to explore the hive,
sang out Miss Frizzle. The first thing we saw was our bee. She was doing a strange dance. Other bees crowded around her, touching her and listening to her. Ms. Frizzle said the dance was a language. With her dance, the bee told others which way to go to the flowers she had found. The dance helped the bees find food faster. They did not have to waste time looking for it. They flew off in the direction of the flowers we had visited.
Bees have many dances.
Each dance says something different.
The Round Dance by Phil. This dance tells bees that a food source is close to the hive. The dancing bee walks in a circle, then turns around and goes the other way. The other bees go outside and fly in a circular pattern near the hive until they find the flowers.
New bees gathered around our bee to get the latest news. We passed the dancing bee and went deeper into the hive.
Doesn't the dance language of bees give you a sense of wonder, Arnold?
Yes, I wonder which way is out.
The Waggle Dance by Carmen. This dance tells bees that a food source is far away. It also tells which way to fly. The dancing bee makes a figure 8. She waggles her body on the middle line. 1. If
the bee waggles straight up, the other bees fly toward the sun. 2. If the bee waggles to the left, the other bees fly to the left of the sun. 3. If the bee waggles to the right, the other bees fly to the right of the sun.
Where does beeswax come from? By Gregory. Bees make wax inside their bodies. The wax comes out through openings in the bees' abdomens.
Look inside me.
Look underneath me. The inside of the hive was covered with beeswax. The bees had shaped the wax into comb, thousands of little containers called cells. Every cell was a hexagon, a six-sided shape. The comb was so perfect, we couldn't believe bees had made it.
Make comb, class,
said Ms. Frizzle.
Almost all bee life takes place on the comb, class.
Bees dance on the comb. They walk and rest on the comb.
How Bees Make Comb by Rachel. A bee uses her back and middle legs to pass wax to her front legs. Then she chews and shapes the wax into cells. Honeybees make the comb cells tilt up so the honey doesn't drip out.
We did our best, but our cells came out pretty lopsided. Luckily, the bees didn't notice us. They just tore down our cells and built them over again. Other bees were busy with other jobs, such as making honey.
Bees raise babies in the comb cells.
They store nectar and pollen in the cells.
They make honey in the cells, too.
That's sweet of them.
Please turn the tape over to the other side. We saw the bees changing nectar into honey. First, they added chemicals from glands inside their heads. The chemicals changed the nectar sugars into honey sugars. Then they spread droplets out and fanned them with their wings. This dried up most of the water, leaving the honey thick, sticky, and extra sweet. We fanned too and helped make honey.
Be a bee, everybody! Fan the honey!
If we act like bees, maybe they won't notice us.
Relax, Arnold. Make yourself at home.
My home isn't made of beeswax.
Miss Frizzle said it was okay to eat some honey as long as we left plenty for the bees.
They need a good supply of honey to help them survive over the winter,
she explained.
It's cozy in a beehive.
It's tasty in a beehive.
It's easy to help with this job.
Honey is good food by Molly. Honey is a very good food for bees, humans, and other animals. But human babies under 1 year should not eat raw honey.
You're not old enough for honey, honey.
We stopped eating honey long enough to notice a bunch of worker bees nearby. They were tending a larger bee with a long, thin body. She was the queen bee. As the queen walked from cell to cell, she laid a small white egg in each one.
The queen lays up to 1,500 eggs per day.
Wow, that's one egg every 58 seconds.
That's excellent. One Big Family by Carlos. Since the queen is the only female that lays eggs, all the bees in the hive are her children.
Hi, Mom. I mean, Your Majesty.
The workers touched the queen with their antennae. They licked her with their tongues, and they fed her by mouth-to-mouth exchange.
Be a bee! Tend the queen!
We can touch her with our antennae.
We can give her some honey.
Let's just skip the mouth-to-mouth part. Good idea.
Why do workers touch and lick the queen? By Keisha. From the queen's body, workers get a pheromone called queen substance.
Take a message.
The workers leave the queen and walk through the hive. They touch and lick other bees. The other bees get queen substance too.
The queen says hello.
I see she's fine.
Queen substance tells the bees that the queen is alive and well. Then the workers keep doing their jobs and everything runs smoothly in the hive.
In some cells, we saw worm-like creatures.
These are larvae, baby bees that hatched out of the eggs,
said Miss Frizzle. Nurse bees were feeding the babies.
How to Feed Baby Bees by Amanda Jane. Nurse bees make baby food in glands inside their heads. This is called brood food. The nurses squeeze out the food right into the larvae's cells. Sometimes larvae are swimming in food.
Sounds delicious.
Older larvae also eat honey and bee bread, a food that is a mix of pollen and honey.
These worm-like things are baby bees?
They don't look like bees at all.
They will, Keisha, they will. All they need is 3 things: food, warmth, and time.
The larvae did nothing but eat fast and grow fast. Every time they got too big for their skins, they molted or shed their skins. Then they started eating and growing again.
Be a bee! Feed the larvae!
Larvae are lucky.
They get room service.
The Royal Treatment by Phil. If a hive becomes too crowded, workers get ready to start a new hive. First, they build some special upside-down cells for new queen bees. Nurse bees feed ordinary female larvae special food called royal jelly. Then the larvae develop into queens.
If a female larva gets royal jelly, she becomes a queen.
If not, she ends up as a worker.
When it is big enough, the larva stops eating,
said the Frizz.
It spins a silk cocoon around itself. Now it is called a pupa. The nurse bees put a wax top on the cell. Inside, the pupa doesn't eat or grow bigger. It changes into an adult bee. This is called metamorphosis.
Why does a larva eat a lot? So the pupa can change a lot. By Arnold. Pupae do not eat. So where do they get the energy to grow the parts of adult bees? They use the fat and tissue they stored up when they were larvae.
Another word from Dorothy Ann. Metamorphosis comes from a word that means change.
Things sure are changing in there.
The pupae are getting heads.
And eyes and antennae.
And wings and legs.
Everything they need to be a bee.
When the pupae have finished changing into adult bees, they chew their way out of their cells,
continued Ms. Frizzle. We saw new worker bees emerging. They let the air dry them off and started working right away.
Now the metamorphosis is complete, children.
The bees are all grown up.
I'm so proud of them.
Meanwhile, we heard excited buzzing. What was happening? The queen was leaving the hive, and she was taking almost half the workers with her. They flew away in a thick swarm. What would become of the hive now?
Swarming bees usually don't sting. By Phoebe. Usually, bees sting because they have a hive to protect. A swarm does not. It's a colony of bees that's between hives.
We're looking for an empty beehive.
Or a nice hollow tree.
Swarming is nature's way of starting new beehives.
But how can the old hive survive without the queen?
There's no one to lay eggs now.
Don't be so sure. Remember the queen cells?
Miss Frizzle led the way to the queen cells. 2 new queens emerged at the same time. After they had dried out, they had a terrible fight.
2 queens? I thought there was only 1 queen in a hive.
One queen stung the other queen to death. Then she killed the other queen pupae in their cells. Now she was the new queen.
You were absolutely right, Arnold. The stronger queen survives to pass on her strength to her children.
A queen bee can sting many times, by Arnold. Unlike worker bees, which can sting only once, the queen bee can pull her stinger out of the victim and sting again.
The worker bees pushed the new queen out of the hive. Ms. Frizzle said she was going on a nuptial flight, a flight to mate with drones.
Queens Meet Drones by Wanda. Thousands of drones from many colonies gather in one place. When queens are ready to mate, they fly there too. Usually, drones do not mate with the queen from their own colony.
Another word from Dorothy Ann. Nuptial comes from a word that means wedding.
After the new queen mates, she'll return to the hive and start laying eggs. Her eggs will hatch and replace the workers that left with the old queen. Then the hive will be as strong as it was before.
Maybe yes, maybe no.
After the new queen left, we heard heavy footsteps. It was a bear trying to steal the honey and the bee larvae. The workers flew out and tried to sting the bear, but its thick fur protected its body.
If the bear breaks open the hive
and eats all the honey and larvae,
the bees may not survive. We have to help.
Sting him!
I can't get through.
Help! We flew out and dived at the bear, but it kept coming at the hive.
Be a bee! Defend the hive!
But I don't want to hurt a cute little bear. I wouldn't say cute and little.
I'd say big and hungry.
Common Hive Raiders by Tim. Skunks, bears, wasps, bees from other hives. Bees can defeat most robbers, but bears are hard to beat. Beware! Never get close to bears. They may look cute, but they are very dangerous.
We have to use strategy, class,
called the Frizz.
We'll lure the bear away.
Ms. Frizzle made a beeline for the Beehive bus, and we followed. The jar of honey that had spilled before was still on the floor. The bear smelled the honey and came after us.
Miss Frizzle!
We yelled,
"Do something!"
She stepped on the gas and the bus lurched forward.
The bear will follow our honey away from the hive, class.
Miss Frizzle spilled that honey before we changed into bees.
And before we became bear bait.
Those were the good old days.
As we rounded a corner, the honey jar rolled out the bus door. As the jar fell, it returned to its normal size. The bear started eating honey and forgot all about us.
What a jarring experience.
There's a lot of honey in this hive today. I'll take some honey to sell, but I'll leave enough for the bees.
Miss Frizzle reached for a joystick on the dashboard. To our relief, the bus lifted off. It wasn't a beehive bus anymore, it was a bee bus. Down below, we saw the new queen returning home from her nuptial flight.
The hive is safe.
We're safe.
We'll meet the beekeeper another day, class. Right now, we're returning to the classroom.
It's about time.
We returned home from our flight, too. The instant its 6 feet touched the ground in the school parking lot, the bee bus changed. It was a full-size school bus again. We were human kids again.
Thank goodness for that last metamorphosis.
Thank goodness we changed back to our real selves.
I just said that.
And back in the classroom, we thought of the perfect project to end the day. Baking honey buns, of course.
I kind of miss being a bee.
Yes, I feel lost without my antennae.
I like the stripes.
The best part was the honey, and we can still get that from beekeepers.
Busy bee riddles. Question: why do bees itch? Answer: they have hives. Question: why did the bee hum at her singing lesson? Answer: she didn't know the words. Question: how does a bee fix her hair? Answer: she uses a honeycomb. Question: what grade did the students get on their honey project? Answer: they all got
We want to find out more about
bee dancing,
beekeeping.
What kind of flowers bees like best?
How people use beeswax.
check out the frizz.
How shocking.
Some things can't happen in real life.
A school bus cannot shrink to the size of a beehive or a bee. School children cannot become bees,
Fly to flowers and gather pollen,
or enter a beehive and eat honey.
They can't? Ah, shucks. And I was looking forward to starting school. This book shows bees making honey in a few minutes. It actually takes them many hours.
Yes, and it takes baby bees many days to grow up into adult bees.
The new queen doesn't start mating until she is about 5 days old.
Then she spends a few days going on mating flights.
This book shows her doing all that in one afternoon.
And this book shows insects talking in words.
Anyone knows we can't do that.
We can't?
Ah, shucks.
We better be quiet then.